Hi everyone, it's Cammy here with Heart and Hand Extra. That's right, we are back. The international football break is finally over and we are now getting back to the proper stuff. It's a pleasure to speak to you as always on a Thursday. And joining me on today's Extra is the ever lovely Marina Bannatyne. Marina, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Cammy. How are you?
I'm all good. Are you glad the international break is now over and we're getting back to seeing the Rangers on Saturday afternoon against Dundee United?
Definitely. I'm very excited for Saturday.
Excellent. Marina, before we get into that, let me ask you a question. Now, this is going to sound a little bit as if I'm doing some future planning. However, what would you like for Christmas?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Alan McGregor?
Okay. So let's say you already had Alan McGregor. What else would you like for Christmas?
Alan strikes me as a man who likes to be well groomed, so maybe something that keep him trim and tidy.
Okay, excellent. Because I'm really pleased to tell you that support for Heart and Hand is brought to you by Manscaped, who are the best in below-the-belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. And Manscaped have just launched within the UK, and they've brought out a fantastic new trimmer called the Lawn Mower 3.0. Yes, that's really what it's called, folks. And believe me, I can't believe that either. However, it gives you with a premium shave, which also gives you a 90-minute battery. So a fantastic premium battery involved within it, and including an LED light. And also it has 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology. Now, that might all sound a bit far-fetched for young Alan. However, I can also tell you as well, Marina, that we've got a fantastic offer that if you use the code RANGERS at manscaped.com, you'll not only get free shipping, but 20% off. How does that sound?
Sounds like a bargain. All right. Where do I sign?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. You can get 20% off and free shipping with the code RANGERS, that's in capital letters, RANGERS, at manscaped.com. 20% off for free shipping and use the code RANGERS. And it's time to shave those balls. That sound good, Marina?
Sounds great.
Excellent. Well, we'll keep that in mind once you snag young Alan. And by the way, I would say this as a very big compliment to you. You could get him.
Oh, thank you. I know. Is it presumptuous if I go ahead and buy the Manscaper?
Well, you may as well, because listen, if he just rocks up one night and you obviously look to seal the deal, and then it looks like as if loads of spiders are trying to crawl out his boxers, you can just point him in the direction of the bathroom, and then 90 minutes later he'll come back clean as a whistle. We're not here to necessarily talk about Alan's shorn scrotum. We're here to talk about the Rangers. And before we get into the preview of the Dundee United game, also some big news which came out within the last 24 hours from MyGers Fans Forum regarding the recent issues with Castore. Attending the forum were James Bisgrove, Commercial Director, one of his staff members, Natalie Nairn, Greg Marshall, Rangers SLO, and also Andy Cole, directly from Castore as well. Now, Marina, we weren't involved in the forum. However, I'm pleased to say that one of our podders, and actually your better half from your show on our Patreon network, Blue Scarves On, Caroline Morrison, was there. And in our daily update today, Caroline took the opportunity to speak to David to provide some feedback about what's happened. Now, to paint that picture, before we go into the forum last night, Marina, I kind of want to go back a little bit of a step and say that this is something which I think really had to happen, because through various different outlets, whether it's in social media or knowing people who have been affected, one of whom, by the way, was Caroline, because she had a real disaster in getting her home kit delivered. I think this has been an important thing that's had to happen, because there's been some real failings here.
Absolutely. It's disappointing. Like, a lot of mistakes have been made, and it is disappointing that something we were so excited about, that it's taking the shine off it. But at the same time, and I know it's easy for me to say because I haven't been affected by anything personally. I'm quite an optimistic person, but and I can understand. I can completely empathise with all the people who have had issues, all of our fans who've suffered issues with their orders. But and although there had been silence for a while, they are engaging with fans now. Hopefully there'll be more of these, and maybe this is something that we wouldn't like I can't imagine Adidas or, sorry, I don't know if it's, but I can't imagine any of the bigger brands. Like, this is one of the benefits of, I know it's hard to see the benefits just now. One of the benefits of being with Castore, that I think, like, for Caroline to be sitting there yesterday talking to like one of the heads, obviously it wasn't I can't remember his title.
The B, oh yeah, Andy's title. Yeah, I think he was like, he's part of the customer service directorate, I think.
Yeah. So for him to be sitting there with 10 fans, obviously it was through Zoom because of COVID restrictions, but I think that's a nice touch, and it was necessary, but hopefully it's continued.
Yeah, so I think, first of all, the reason as to why, and it was completely random, by the way, people had been asking us in the run-up to the week, you know, if we were going, and we were not going as a representation of fans media or you know, the Heart and Hand platform or anything like that. Caroline legitimately got picked just very randomly, but I'm actually really glad that Caroline was one of the guys picked, because again, like I say, her experience had been really poor. I think that the forum was long overdue. Yes, it's a big benefit for MyGers members to be able to provide direct feedback, exactly as you say, Marina, to not only the club but to Castore as well, and being able to say what's going on. Now, to give you some explanation of kind of what's happened and how that meeting was conducted, the aim was that the meeting was going to take about an hour and a half, and it overran by 45 minutes. And there's a slight... that might sound like as if it's just turned into like loads of guys moaning. In actual fact, what Caroline reported back, Marina, was that, you know, everyone involved was happy for it to overrun if that was the case, and that was the case, because I think one thing that we've been crying out for here is, and some of the basic failings that Castore have had, is it's just about listening. And if you do any kind of customer service role, you'll know if you've got an irate customer in front of you, yes, you can fix the problem, but one of the big things, Marina, is just having that opportunity to have your say and to have someone listen and to have them care. And that's been a big gap, I think, in terms of what we've seen within the last few weeks from Castore.
Absolutely. That was the main issue, isn't it? Because everyone wants this to go well. People don't want the issues, and a lot of people who were having issues, that was exactly their point, that they tried to contact Castore and they did no response. So the outcome of last night, or what was explained last night, was that they just completely, they weren't prepared on the customer service side, and they've now increased their customer service team, the size, and I think they're responding to people within 24 hours, or they should be. That's what they've got recorded. So if you haven't had a response, then you should get one within 20, or try again, you'll get it within 24 hours. And there's also Greg. Caroline said that Greg had mentioned that even he had seen like a decrease in people contacting him or liaising with him. So yeah, it was certainly the communication. They fell back there. There were mistakes that were kind of, I guess, out of their hands. Trusting outsourcers, COVID, and then there's things that they, I guess they are accountable for. Well, they're accountable for all of it, but these things, yeah, just not having a big enough customer service department.
Yeah, and I think that's really that's a kind of key point which I think came out of last night, was Castore have now pretty much said what I think a lot of us thought and suspected at the beginning, was despite the warnings and despite the kind of advice given and a little bit of forewarning as to regards what was going to happen, they were basically overwhelmed by what the response was. Now, that information started to come out the club a few weeks ago, and that pretty much kind of resonates with the idea of, you know, if you expect to sell X amount of kits, right, you've got a kind of top level headline that you say, you know, Dream World, this is where we're at. And to give you an idea of you know, the level of our fan base and investment that's been put into the kit manufacturer, that headline figure, that dream figure, was absolutely surpassed. So I think what Castore have now kind of come out and said is that they just couldn't handle it. And when things started to go wrong, the challenge that you had with this was putting the train back on the tracks. Now, that's not to say that any of this is excusable. It's not. but they've been completely overwhelmed by what's happened. And exactly as you say, Marina, they've doubled their customer service team now, which they've had to do, which they probably didn't expect to have to do, but it's been necessary. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting was that there was quite a bit of an obvious humility, I think, from Andy Cole at Castore last night to say, we've got it wrong, but we're trying to fix it. And it kind of feels a bit frustrating, I think, Marina, that maybe they could have just said that a few weeks ago. And I think most fans would have been happy with that, because I think, we're pretty understanding. You hit the nail on the head. We want this to work. But I think that the other big lesson I've learned from this is, there's no point in you holding a silence that's just going to create a vacuum that people are just going to throw rumours into. And whether that's Rangers fans or Celtic fans trying to wind up Rangers fans, a vacuum only gets filled one way, and that's usually with misdirection and rumours and misunderstanding. Castore could have just dealt with that head on a number of weeks ago.
There's nothing worse than not being listened to, especially when you have a genuine complaint and it's not something you want to complain about. It's just a horrible experience for the customer. So yeah, they've learned from that and they are trying to fix things. They completely underestimated, although they were warned by Heart and Hand as well, for high demand. Rangers fans once again sold out all their season tickets during the COVID pandemic. Once again, we just surpassed all expectations or succeeded all expectations. So yeah, I guess all they can do is learn from it. What Andy did say, or Caroline said, Andy said, was that Castore, what really stings with them or what hurts them is when people say that it's just Rangers that Castore are taking advantage of Rangers fans and their famous loyalty, because that is not the case, and it might seem like that, and you can understand why as fans would feel that way, especially because that loyalty that we have for our team, it has been taken advantage of in the past. Craig White, Charles Green, Mike Ashley, we've been burned so many times before, and maybe this was starting to feel like another time, but I do think this is different because they are communicating with us. And I guess, I know it doesn't help when you're still suffering, and I completely empathise when you're still get things missing or being sent faulty things, but they didn't need to do that last night. And they certainly are trying to, it sounds as though, although I guess I'm easily led, but it sounds like they are trying to fix it, and they do want to fix it. And this is a 5-year relationship we're going to have. So hopefully it's just teething problems and it gets better.
Yeah, listen, I think that's a big thing, right? And I think that you kind of have to look at it from a perspective of I don't know how you want to call it. If you want to call it goodwill, if you want to say we'll give you another chance. Now, I totally understand, and it's not the job of this platform in terms of Heart and Hand or myself or Marina or anyone else involved to say that someone is right or wrong in terms of how they now feel about any kind of form of negative experience they've had with Castore. But what I do believe is that no one wanted this to fail from anyone who's a Rangers supporter right from the get-go, saying, I hope it falls in its arse. I don't think that happened whatsoever. I think what Castore now have to do is and you kind of touched on it there, and it's another great point, making basic errors, like when they started to put it out to outsourcers, because again, they were overwhelmed with demand. They put it out to an outsourcer that they had never used before. They started to produce really low quality school jumper tops, which obviously got, really publicly embarrassing for Castore. They not only immediately said, if you have bought one of these, then we will immediately give you a refund. They've given all of the rest of those tops away now. I think they've now been donated to charity or something, I think, in terms of what's happened with that. But they've then had to really step up their quality assessment side of things. So they'll now start doing quality assessment for any partner material which is then produced, whether it's tops or shorts or whatever. And again, Marina, I think that's another lesson learned, that, if you do need to be able to go into a working partnership and take an outsourcer into, your agreement or whatever, their commitment has to match your commitment, because they are basically, in all literal senses, producing your brand for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess in that way, it's when you see it's a new company it's a learning curve for them. Unfortunately, at our expense, our fans' expense. But yeah, it's just mistakes, and like they hopefully won't repeat again, or hopefully they can learn from. But I genuinely believe that they will. That they do want, like, obviously as well. This is their reputation. We're their first like football club to be like to make the kits for, and I'm sure they want to do it for other. So they want this to go well from a business side as well, not just a personal side.
Yeah, and maybe, like you say, I mean, from that perspective, that's where, I mean, it does, you know, there is definitely a mix in terms of where there's some basic errors here, and there's errors which could only have been found out, you know, when you get into the proper mechanisms of being able to try and go through something of this kind of level of demand. You're absolutely right. They do want to be able to get into working with other clubs. I don't believe for a single minute, however, that any other clubs outside one of the top tiers are going to be able to replicate the level of investment that we've just put into them in terms of the amount of merchandise that we bought. One other thing that kind of came out as well that was interesting as well, Marina, that Caroline had spoken to David about today on the update, was that they did have options in terms of doing home kits and then doing a limited sale, release, launch, etc., and then seeing as to how that worked, and then in turn looking to be able to try and do other, you know, like the away kit, third kit, etc. And what the option they took was the opposite. They wanted to take a big bang approach and been able to really go with it and then take it from there. And again, I think it comes back to a focus on maybe just biting off more than you can chew. But there's no way to do a dry run of these things. You're right, we told them and we gave them that kind of warning. But until the proof was actually in the pudding, that's where some mistakes kind of came out the back of it. And I think that they spoke yesterday with the fans group to talk about, you know, next season kits, the 150th anniversary. So the onus now is back on them to show that they've learned from this experience and avoid it at all costs next time.
Exactly. Yeah. I can imagine if they had have went for the sort of drip approach to start. As fans, we would be like, "Oh, when's the next top coming out? We want this, we want that." In hindsight, but hindsight's a great thing, isn't it? In hindsight, yeah, it probably should have been that way. But we've just been so desperate to have a shop and to be able to buy all these things that we haven't been able to do. Kind of last year, but then that turned sour. And I guess that's a positive. We now have a shop. We're now getting, we now have a shop at Ibrox, and hopefully more down the line. I'm sure, like that's something that Caroline mentioned today as well. We've got a good deal with Castore, where a lot of the money is going back into the club. So it's really, and I'm not telling anyone, sorry, like just focus on the positive. I don't, because that's not the case. Your priority should be the product that you've paid for, and for it to be up to Rangers standard. We all know that we have very high standards. We have high standards of the team. We have high standards, anything to do with Rangers. So, but yeah, hopefully there are positive, and hopefully there'll be more to come, or there are positives, and hopefully there'll be more to come. And I'm sure, like the whole COVID thing as well, next year will be better. And yeah, that, I guess it's up to them to prove that to us.
I think it's interesting, as you kind of touched on there, the next kind of phase in terms of what Castore are looking at as well is to be able to try and come back out with Ranger shops in different locations. So they were looking at, you know, another couple within Glasgow. There's looking at one up north. There's one coming across in Belfast. Castore obviously have their existing stores at the moment, so they are obviously selling Ranger shops within there. I think that there's a big positive to come from the idea, Marina, though, that we're continuing to promote that as a brand. We had 15 players out on international duty across the course of the last couple of weeks. And that, for me, is almost kind of getting back to a degree of normality after everything that we've kind of gone through. But being able to actually go into Ranger shops and stuff, doing it at your own stadium, which I know anyone listening to this that's not aware of Rangers' journey, not aware of the kind of recent history, might sound like, well, that's a given. It really hasn't been. But being able to continue to see other shops being opened and make them more accessible for fans, again, like you say, I think that's just it's a really positive news story for the whole brand, I think.
Definitely. Okay.
The other most important thing, and this was something that I really, and I'm being totally serious now, wanted to hear about this, is the issue regarding not only the kids' kits has been looked at. That is going to be the next step in terms of being able to try and get the junior stuff. That's important, but the mega important stuff is they are looking into ducks. They are going to be bringing the ducks back into the Rangers shop. David has one, Ronald Duckboa. I have one as well, but I didn't name him. I wanted to maybe try and do some sort of, Kyle Lafferty type approach. Couldn't do that. It was too difficult. But I'll definitely be buying some more when they come into stock.
Yes, apparently, Andy from Castore said that Rangers fans, he's noticed, they are aware of our obsession for rubber ducks. So yeah, that's in the pipeline. Very exciting, and I think that's the thing. It's our thirst for the Rangers badge on things. Something that like you and I would have experienced as children, like having our Rangers stuff, and that a lot of kids these days have missed out on, and the smaller things. So yeah, it's good that. But the main thing, rubber ducks, of course.
Rubber ducks are coming back to it. Now, a joke, obviously. There's far more important things going on in the world apart from Al McGregor's balls and, rubber ducks in the bath. Now, what I would also say is, I do want to come back to this point because I do think that it's very, very important that the dialogue in terms of what we've offered Castore and more importantly, what's happened recently with regards 1872, because 1872 did come out and say, we gave the club an opportunity to talk about this. We've given Castore the opportunity to talk about this, and both were kind of pretty much snubbed. There was mention in terms of being able to try and do a forum like this as well, but Castore and Rangers do have options and they do have different platforms that they can go to. 1872 is a massive stakeholder in the club. They have a huge number of members. Between ourselves, Mark's site Follow, Stevie Clifford, the Four Lads Have a Dream, we were all very supportive of the launch kind of going forward. My hope is, and I really do sincerely mean this, if anyone from the club or Castore are listening, is just use us when you get asked to be able to try and come on and speak to guys from 1872. No one's, it's not like you'll walk out the room, bloodied and battered. We want to just talk to you and have a dialogue and understand answers and ask the questions and kind of do what you did last night, but we can give you that opportunity. So I think, again, from our perspective, we've highlighted these things, Marina. We've said we want to talk to you. And my real sincere hope is that becomes an opportunity kind of going forward so that, we get to have a better back and forth and a better rapport with Castore and with the club when things like this happen. It's what we said before, it's people listening.
Yeah, as you said, it's like rebuilding that trust and reputation. It's up to them to prove. So, yes, improve your customer service team. They've done that. And next thing I get, send out quality products. Hopefully ticking that off with the 100% quality check. And then liaise with the fans as you can. So hopefully they will have a meeting, or they will, so that, I think the manager, it was asked last night, why Club 1872 weren't invited. And it's because that was for MyGers fans. That was a unique experience for MyGers fans. So I'm sure there will be, they'll start communicating with the fan media or the shareholders at Club 1872. So I guess if they do that, then, we can see that they are trying to communicate with us and they are trying to fix these issues.
Well, the only thing that will resolve that will be work, the effort to be able to try and put into it, and also time. And we'll have to see as to what happens and stuff as well. And my hope is, and I do genuinely mean this, I've been very, very fortunate the fact that I haven't had to go through any of the negative experiences. Marina, obviously you've said that you've been in the same boat as myself in terms of, you bought products, you really like them, good service, all that kind of stuff. That's fine. I'll totally understand that. what I really genuinely hope is that we get the chance to be able to try and make up for the people who have had those really negative shit journeys. And if they can turn that attitude around and those fans are willing to be able to allow Castore to be able to try and make it up to them, I think that's a big point as well. And only Castore can do that. It's not the fans' responsibility to make sure that those standards that you mentioned earlier on, Marina, are met, because it's Rangers. We hold everything to that high regard, exactly as you said. Castore have to do that. The club have to do that. And as I say, hopefully time will tell, because there is a very, very receptive fan base who have put their money in their pockets. A great deal, it has to be said, at a time of MyGers opportunities coming out, to be able to try and join that and put money into the club, to joining up and renewing season tickets yet again, selling out. A fantastic, great news story there. Buying kits as well for not just yourself but the family members as well. We're willing to do it, but don't make us regret it if it goes badly. So again, like I say, let's hope that they get the opportunity to turn that around and do so. Okay, well, that's Castore. That's one issue dealt with, and again, like I say, that's something which I think was a really important topic that I wanted to cover on today's extra. But we are also looking forward to Dundee United coming to Ibrox on Saturday afternoon, Marina, and going to be an interesting one, I think. We haven't heard a whole load of updates in terms of obviously players coming back from international duty and any existing injuries. The expectation is obviously Jermaine Defoe and Nikola Katic are still out. We have not heard any confirmed news yet on Joe Aribo. His injury is always the Rangers curse. 7 to 10 days actually means about a month. Always happens to Rangers. And there is rumours, Marina, circulating today that apparently Borna Barisic may have picked up a knock, and there is possibly a chance he may miss Saturday afternoon's games. Now, I want to ask you a little bit about this, because obviously there's been a huge focus on our start to the season, specifically around clean sheets. It's been absolutely magnificent. It's record-breaking. We're going to set new Scottish records if we are able to do so against Dundee United on Saturday afternoon. But Borna's have been a big part of that defence, and he does leave a significant hole in it if, as I say, he has to miss the game. Would you feel comfortable with Calvin Bassey being able to come in, and is that maybe a lot of pressure to put on a young guy who's not had a load of game time yet, because Borna's a difficult guy to remove out the team, but again, like I say, with that focus on the clean sheets.
I know Barisic is one of our best players, so it's big shoes to fill. But I am quite keen to see Bassey. There's that added. I think it's amazing that we have kept these clean sheets, but when we're missing one of our main players, I think as long as we're winning the game, it doesn't really matter if we let in some goals or if we keep a clean sheet. So I'd hope he's not feeling well. Of course, sorry, I'll talk about that standard that we expect for Rangership. I want a clean sheet on his debut. I know I was feeling myself a little bit unstaunch there. Yeah, just as well, it's just a wee team like Dundee United, I guess, if he has to start.
I think that's an important thing, and you do hit a really good point. I do understand why people have got a special place of hatred in their heart for Dundee United, because I am exactly the same. But I do want to put them to one side. There has been a little bit of a mixed start to the season for Dundee United. They have pretty much, I think, been very hampered by the absence of Lawrence Shankland, who obviously was instrumental in being able to get them out of the Championship and then obviously being awarded promotion. I say awarded, given, defaulted, I suppose, maybe another way of being able to try and put it. But it has been a bit of a mixed start. They got an absolute tonking in their last league game at Kilmarnock. They've put in some decent performances, I think, though, Marina. They're starting to kind of find their feet a wee bit. But anyone involved at Dundee United and anyone who's been there for a period of time know that coming to Ibrox is a huge game, and playing against Rangers is a big game in the eyes of the Dundee United players. I think you're absolutely right. I think your mentality spot on. I think we have to treat them with a level of disdain. And although 3 points is the absolute necessity, a clean sheet is a very welcome bonus, but I think both are very achievable.
Yeah, absolutely. Even Shankland's a really good player, obviously, and apparently a footballer once told me that you play better against the team you support. Is he a Rangers fan? Is he confirmed? Or have I just assumed that because of the ongoing links with us.
I don't know. I think there's always been kind of those kind of links with us. I've heard that, and I've heard other things as well, and it kind of all feels a bit the kind of rumour mill and stuff as well. Because as you say, we've always kind of had some kind of links with them, but that ties into obviously Alfredo potentially leaving at some point as well. So it looked like as if that could have happened, but I don't know that for certainty.
Yeah, actually, once I said it, I'm not sure. I have just read that on forums and not actually don't know it for a fact. But yeah, it's Dundee United. I really well, obviously I wish I was going to all the games, but I really wish I was going to this game. But I'm really looking forward to it, and absolutely, I have a lot of. It's quite a long list, I guess, of teams in Scotland that I have disdain for, but Dundee United are certainly there.
One thing that is quite interesting is and we will come on to this in just a minute, but the Dundee United manager, Mickey Mellon, came out today to announce that Shankland was fit and could play. However, he's not being sold at this point in time. No one's tried to come into it. It's a far smaller scale, because you're kind of comparing a Rolls Royce and a Fiat Panda, but there's very stark similarities, I think, in terms of what we've had to deal with Alfredo Morelos and Steven Gerrard constantly been asking about transfer bids coming in, because as soon as he starts scoring goals in Scotland and you start becoming a bit of a prolific striker, usually a big club is there, or Celtic, to come in and potentially snap you up. I think if he plays, then he could be a danger, but then he has missed pretty much all of the start of the season. I don't know if it's just a case of, he may feature, but Dundee United will come and they'll have to try and turn around and stop this rot that they've kind of get into, and having been trounced off at Kilmarnock 4-0, I think that they'll try and open up a bit. I don't know if it'll be quite a tight defence and they'll just sit in and try and hold it out for a draw. I think that they'll try and open up and try and be a wee bit more expansive.
Interesting. I don't know. I just pictured it all like most teams just play really defensive against us, and the past couple of years it has worked, unfortunately. So I guess I can't really blame the teams when they do that. But yeah, it would make a more interesting game to watch if they do open up a bit, and hopefully we're starting to kind of overcome that issue anyway. Like being really defensive, touch wood, isn't working against us anymore, or it isn't working for the teams. So we're still opening them up. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they play. Obviously, I have no doubts that this will be the best game that they play this season so far. Like they'll play their best, because they always do. I feel like teams always do raise a game against Rangers. So just need to wait and see. But I don't know. How do you think they'll play?
So I think they'll try and come out at us, but then I think you've hit the nail on the head, because of how defensively teams have played against this, especially Ibrox, that we've worked better and we've learned how to be able to try and break down those really tight-knit defences, and when the box is really crowded with so many players in trying to do whatever they possibly can just to simply get the ball away from their own goal, then I think we've done far better at being able to try and break some of that stuff down recently. One thing which is really interesting and certainly been a continual topic of debate is the fact that we're obviously playing the game behind closed doors, and there isn't that pressure on the team when fans start to get frustrated and voice that frustration. News coming out today, Marina, that the likelihood is that the planned test events, of which Dundee United was being considered as one of the games, is now no longer being considered. However, the Celtic game at Ross County and also the Aberdeen game are being they've been given the green light to go ahead to be able to try and have a number of fans in there. But then thereafter, it looks like at the very earliest we won't have fans in the stadium until probably mid-October. I don't think we're going to see fans in stadium wholesale probably until next year at this rate now.
That's quite interesting, isn't it? Because we're playing them mid-October. Is
this a degree of paranoia that comes out with you, Marina, when it says that Aberdeen and Celtic, two teams who were already given COVID-related punishments, now are going to allow fans back in the stadium?
I mean, not to sound paranoid, but yeah, I was just fully expecting that either that game will be moved if fans aren't allowed in, or fans will be allowed somehow be allowed in for that game. And they'll do another test then, or it will coincide. I don't know. It does make you a bit paranoid, doesn't it? I know it's not a trait of us Rangers fans, but the past few years, you do tend to question a lot of things.
You do, and I suppose it's what Peter Lawwell wants. He tends to get when the SFA and the SPFL are involved with him. Anyway, let's focus a little bit more on obviously how we're going to play, which is I'm curious to get your kind of thoughts on whether or not we will see Alfredo Morelos return to the Rangers lineup on Saturday. We are likely still going to be missing Cedric Itten with his injury. We don't think that he's going to be able to be considered for selection, but Alfredo is fit, good to go. You're Steven Gerrard, Marina. Do you start him on Saturday afternoon?
Last time I said no, but I guess that was Hamilton away on a plastic pitch. We're still paying his wages, aren't we? So yeah, play him. I'm completely going around in what I said last time, but he's not been sold yet. 2 weeks later, he's still not been sold. Play him, start him. We're paying his wages. I think the last time as well was just getting a bit fit. Like, that's the problem with Morelos. You can't, like, when he's playing well, he's a 10, he's amazing, but you just can't depend on that, or you can't rely on him because you don't know how it's going to be. You don't know how he's going to be. I remember Adam said that about another player on a post-match or something earlier on in the season, that they were like a 10, but they can also be like a 3, but what ideally you want is a consistent 7. Can't remember who he was talking about, but that's kind of how I feel about Morelos.
I think there's a big question, and I think that we kind of have to look at. I agree with you. If we put him on the bench, going on the assumption he's involved within the squad on Saturday, and we put him on the bench, you're still talking about a £20 million asset. Mm-hmm. So do you look at, okay, well, maybe we have to consider how we utilise him. So if we are struggling to be able to get a winning goal, is that the guy that you bring on with 30 minutes to go and let him run rampage? Because you're exactly right. When he's in the mood for it and he's hungry, then he's unplayable at times. But then at the same point, I think that the manager has said before his head's been turned, but then he dropped him. He has been training well, and we know the importance that the manager places within players who train well. He then came back into the squad after doing really well at training, so he absolutely deserved his place. But I think you play him. I think you have to be able to try and get him involved for if not all, at least a big chunk of the game. And I'm happy to say that if he scores a hat trick by half time and we take him off, then that's fine because he's done his job. But the most important thing is that you're right. If we have him there and he's an asset to us, and we need to use him, that we use him. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think if he's playing well, he will absolutely tear Dundee United apart.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. Okay, well, what I'll do before I let you go, Marina, is I'm going to again put you back in the spot, as I so enjoy doing that, and give me a score prediction. And if you want to, you can tell me who's going to score your goals for you as well.
I got this right the last time for Hamilton. So I'm going to say 4-0.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So Kent. Well, last time I said Brandon Barker, didn't I? I don't know whether to keep like going with that until. Yeah, I guess like seeing as there's a theme of shaven or bald.
You want to give it the honorary mention to Brandon Barker and his somewhat questionable haircut. I think is okay, fair enough. Okay, so you've got Kent, Barker. Who else?
Alfie double, of course.
Okay, excellent. I like that. So all of those players that you've just mentioned, no doubt, will get injured tomorrow. That's just the luck that we have. I think you've got a very optimistic outcome, very positive. I really like it. I'll go 3-0, not slightly as optimistic, but I enjoy the fact that we're both going to have clean sheets. And I'll say Kamar Roof. I'll give Georgie Hadji. He's our new signing. Yanis Hadji, and who else will I pick? I'll pick Calvin Bassey. If Calvin Bassey plays, I'm going to say that he's going to score. There you go. That's to give the lads some encouragement as well.
That'd be nice, yeah.
Okay, grand. Well, listen, we've mentioned it a couple of times throughout today's show, but please, if you would like to hear more of us, please check out our Patreon site, which is patreon.com/Heart and Hand. You'll be able to get up to 4 or 5 shows a day. The value for money is absolutely fantastic. Not like a similar launch of a football podcast, which has just come out, which has former, what's the best way to say it, punchbag of this here network, Graham Spears, who has now decided that 10 years after we started doing it, that podcasts might be worth something, and has now launched a Scottish football podcast for £2.40 a month, and you'll get between 4 and 6 shows a month. Marina, we couldn't be that lazy if we tried.
Well, I don't know, Caroline. I haven't done a blue scarf on in a while, so unfortunately, on this occasion, I can't question Graham Spears' work ethic. But I think that's still too many. I'd rather pay the money and not have those shows. 6 shows.
Yeah,
too many.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd rather pay the money so that I didn't have to listen to him. However, Graham's record of success, having been managed out of practically every job he's ever held, I'm sure will stand him in good stead for his new footballing podcast venture. And I think, like you say, if you wish to listen to that, then good luck to you. Okay, as Marina has said there, you can listen to some of our excellent shows with our co-host Caroline Morris and Blue Scarves on our Patreon site, as well as our Tactic Talks with the aforementioned Adam Thornton. They have a wonderful time capsule with Martin Ramsey, and in case you haven't picked up a copy of a newspaper today, namely the Glasgow Evening Times, you may not know that Martin has written a book called The 50 Greatest Rangers Games. That was voted by Heart and Hand listeners, and the book is selling absolute great guns. He gave me one, but he defaced it with a signature, so if people don't want to buy one, I'm selling mine. I can't be bothered reading it. I joke, obviously, it's absolutely fantastic, and a great stocking filler if maybe, Marina, you want to get that for Alan McGregor as well.
Oh, perhaps, yeah, if he features. I'm sure he'll feature as well.
Yeah, I'm sure he's in there at some point. I think you complained at the time that there wasn't photographs of him in it. And as I say, you get daily updates from us as well. So please go and check it out if you'd like to be able to try and do that. You can get it on there for only a couple of quid a month if that's what you want to be able to try and do. Last thing for me to do is to thank our executive producers in London, Mr. Mike Lee and Mr. Paul Myers, and obviously my ever wonderful guest. And Marina, I promise you the next time we do a show together, we won't talk about testicles as much. Is that okay?
That sounds good. Sounds good to me. Thank you very much for having me on.
Okay, perfect. And thank you very much for your time. Thanks, folks. David will be back with you for your flagship show on Monday, hopefully celebrating a very, very strong victory over Dundee United on Saturday. And have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks all.